Hey, this video is going to be concerning the art of war, which is a military treatise or book that's 2,400 to 2,500 years old. And it's about strategy for life. So what I'm going to do here is pretty much read. We'll work on one chapter at a time. I'm going to read a section like I do with my students on Camlin with Brain Mass and also Varsity Tutors. But I read a chapter, and then I'll analyze it, and we will also break it down to how we can apply it to our day-to-day living. Because the purpose of any learning is to help you in your day-to-day life, not learning just for the sake of learning. And reading, analysis, and comprehension is, I guess to say, absolutely necessary just in day-to-day living. And with the art of war, it's going to help us with what we call the battle of life. All of us are in the battle of life every day. We face some type of challenge, some type of issue, and this knowledge has helped a lot of people through the ages, even helped me to start my business from nothing with just a little bit of money. So I'm going to share that with you, um, and as well as give an analysis of it, because a lot of people may read it but can't understand the clear message that it's giving to them. And this isn't going to be objective and based on the truths and realities of universal law and not my opinion. You can form your own opinion, but we're going to go on with what we're doing here just to share this information, and then you use it as you will. I'll probably go work on one chapter each session here, and sometimes it's hard to stop, so I may end up going to another chapter, and then we just see how you like it. So we'll start with number one. Chapter one is laying plans. And first, I must tell you that Sun Tzu, who's the author of The Art of War, was an actual general in ancient China. So he was one who practiced these things, and it was life and death, just like today. It's not much difference today. We just have more technology. We got better clothes. We ride around in cars, but life is just as perilous today in trying to survive and take care of your day-to-day activities. So, in laying plans, number one, Sun Tzu said the art of war is of vital importance to the state. I just explained that to you in a short synopsis. Yes, it's vital to the state, but not just governments, because you are the president of your home. We are the generals of our lives. So everything that applies on a national level applies on a home level, because you have to provide for your home. You have to strategize how to make as much money as you can to pay your bills, your health, which is really your number one wealth, and your peace of mind. It's all strategy. So it is of vital importance to the state. And also in national, what we have going on now, the art of war and strategy is seen now in situation we have in Ukraine and other places as well. That are not making the news as much, but excuse me. As far as being of vital importance to the state, nations use these strategies. Business schools use these strategies. It's part of required reading for people at the military institutions. So it can definitely help you, and as it has helped me as well. Okay, and secondly, number two, it is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence, it is a subject of inquiry which can on no count be neglected. And here again, he starts off showing you it is a matter of life and death, the art of war. And when I would like to explain, when I say the art of war, it's not necessarily going to hurt another person, but just to strategize for, as I mentioned before, as Frederick Douglass called it, in the battle of life. This is to help you to win your personal war. Every day we're in some type of war. Just taking in a breath, you're resisting air. Yes, conflict, just pulling in a breath. Just also, one thing that we are at we are at war 24 hours a day for our health. Your white blood cells and your body is fighting off infections 24 hours a day when you're awake and when you are asleep. So we cannot pretend that it's just peace and no friction. Um, so that's just to show you that being prepared and strategic is necessary every day. From your birth until you leave this plane of existence or Earth. Or okay. Number three, the art of war then is governed by five constant factors to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. And what this means is seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field, basically saying when you analyzing the terrain, your battlefield, where you're battling, your opponent, and things of that nature. So you're analyzing it all. So, and in analysis, it also goes to like a business transaction. If you go to purchase a car, you got to analyze which car has the I guess the highest quality, which provides you the most bang for the buck, which is going to last the longest. That's just one example. Uh, how can you bargain for the best price? The art of war is everywhere, and I just use that as one example. Okay, okay, and one of the factors in determining the overall battle and the overall, I guess, the machinations or all of the components in any type of battle or in practicing the art of war. Number one is the moral law. It's very important. I studied and looked that up. A just cause. Okay, these are, when I say determine the conditions in the field, these are the determinations or the things that will basically determine a winner and a loser. So, the moral law, basically a just cause. So, which side has a just cause? No matter what our religious beliefs or whatever, everybody on the planet knows what's fair and just. And when you act in accordance with justice, you got basically the whole universe behind you. Whatever your religion, you can call it what you will, but when you are doing what's right, everybody knows everything flows towards justice and doing what's right. Martin Luther King even mentioned something that he read. He read it from, I guess, his study of some of Gandhi's work. He said the arc of the universe is long, which means it takes a long time for things to lean, but he said it leans towards justice. So whether it comes today, whether it comes 10 years from now or 20 years from now, justice is going to be served. That's a reality. So that's when he mentions, and Sun Tzu knew this. And everyone comes to this conclusion, just living day-to-day life and seeing reality for what it is. But the moral law, so whichever side has the moral law or just cause, automatically has an advantage. That's not necessarily enough to guarantee victory, but it is, I'm sorry, checking the video there. But it is an absolute necessity. Okay? Okay, heaven, too. When he mentions heaven, he means the heavens as well as the atmosphere, the weather conditions. Before you go into battle, you need to know the weather conditions. Just like when you're going to work, you need to get up and or look the night before to see if there's going to be ice on the road, if it's wintertime, heavy rains. Heavy rains, it's going to take you a little longer to get to work. See, these are just calculations people make day to day, was based this part of the art of war. And the better you practice it, the easier your life will be. Um, so, as far as weather conditions, you need to know those before you engage in any activity. And I'm not going to stay on that too long because that's pretty much common sense. Um, so, having also night and day, should you attack in the day or should you go out in your endeavors? Take it is something you should do during the day, or is it better to do it at night? If it's cold, or if it's hot, and what season? What may be the best season for you to go and purchase something? When the sales are going on, if we're looking at it from economic condition. Um, all right. Also, so now we'll go to Earth. Earth is the next thing. So you always want to know distances. If you common sense, basically, what's the distance? What would be closer? What is better? This is what generals do in war. Is what you do every day as well. What's the fastest way, or easiest way to get from A to B? And with the fuel prices as they are today, this is even more important. And that's just a cycle. Fuel prices go up and go down, go up and go down. So basically, try to stay on the fastest route to whatever you're trying to do. Um, Also, danger and security. What is the safest route in engaging in whatever you're doing? What is this safer to go through this neighborhood to get to where I'm going? Is this road safer? Less traffic and things of that nature. I know you all have common sense out there. You make these calculations every day, but these are just all components of the art of war, and I'm give you a synopsis of how we use it every day. When you see the title, The Art of War, people don't even open the book because they just automatically assume it's about attacking somebody for no reason or being sinister. No, it's day-to-day living, and it will help. So, also open ground and narrow passes as is a part of what Sun Tzu added to the Earth component in make your analysis. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. You probably would rather traverse an open area than a narrow pass. Like common sense, if you're coming out of a movie theater, you don't want to walk down an alley. So we'll go on past that. I know you know that already. And the chances of life and death. That's also part of the earth component in his considerations obtaining in the field. So you always want to take that goes back to safety. In anything you do, you always want to go take the safest route and not even go to a place where there's going to be danger, like some type of violent rally, anything that of that nature. So that's just part of the Earth, which is number three. Number four is the commander who's leading the troops. Very important. Um, and the commander is what he states here. The commander stands for the virtues. And the virtue, of course, virtues are something good, positive, or, very helpful, not detrimental. So the commander stands for the virtue of wisdom, sincerity or genuineness, being genuine, benevolence, courage, and strictness or discipline. Now, the commander is absolutely essential. So this is also part of the analysis when you are analyzing your enemy and also analyzing your own troops and your home. You're the commander of your home. If you're the parent or what have you. So all of these apply to anybody that's a parent or just running a household, which is your small nation. So what we have here is wisdom as number one. So the reason he has that as number one. Wherever the mind goes, everything else follows. You make wise decisions, you have good outcomes. Make unwise decisions, bad choices, you get a bad outcome. So the wisdom, which is, as I looked up a long time ago, people have different definitions, but I looked up what is the definition of wisdom. It's not just what we call smart or what have you, but wisdom is a combination of knowledge and the ability to apply the knowledge, practical application. You can be wise. I know a lot of people that can quote and they can be wise, but they can't apply it to their own lives. As you may know, there may be people that are, let's say, there are people that's MBA, an MBA, but they may work a regular job, not maybe by choice, but just work and not even using it in their that capacity. And you have somebody that doesn't have an MBA, starts a business, becomes a multimillionaire. So he took his wisdom and he could apply it. He or she could apply it. And then you have a person with the knowledge can't apply it. So that's just knowledge by itself. Not much good without wisdom of being able to apply it. So that's why he mentions wisdom is number one, because your wisdom is your guiding point. If your leader is very wise, you're going to have a better chance of winning than a leader that is not wise. It nearly always guarantees destruction. So just like a household. Okay, and sincerity, very important. Or being genuine. Look that up. That means having genuine intent. Everybody respects a leader that is genuine. Nobody respects what we call conniving or untrustworthy person. When a person is trustworthy, they are pretty much followed and believed in. And that's an absolute necessity. That's why we have, since I'm elaborating on day-to-day living with the art of war, or the principles of the art of war. So I have to mention also that's why a lot of people don't have around the world may not have faith in politics, politicians, or not just politicians, or um, their management at their jobs or what have you. Because there are some people that are in positions of power, but they're not genuine. They don't have the people's best interests at heart. Um, so genuine, being genuine, or what people were maybe street terminology they call it being a real person or being a true person, is very important. So, so we'll move on to the next, benevolence. The commander must be benevolent. That's basically being kind to your troops, caring about them. Because further on in the art of war, Sun Tzu mentions if you treat your troops as like they're your own sons, they'll follow you all the way to death. That shows the importance of treating people correctly. And this is, like I said, this book is about 2,500 or 2,500 years old, if not older. So, it's amazing. Well, not amazing, but these basic principles, they're immutable through time. They don't go away because they are called truths. There's a difference between an opinion and a truth. A truth stays, whether you believe in it or you don't believe in it. It's reality. Um, so the next concept, well, but I'm sorry, the, sticking with benevolence for one more second. I also read another book that supports this, something from a book that says, I forgot the name of the book, but it says the most important for a person is they want to feel important. After their biological needs, of course, you got to eat just to live and drink water and things of that nature, but feeling important. So make people feel important, not flattery and fakery, but just keep um, mentioning or bringing about or talking about your troops' strengths. And you're not lying to them. You're being genuine, but you keep speaking on their strengths, and they're growing confidence. And so benevolence is very important. Courage for commanders, absolutely essential. Courage, actually is not just a lack of fear. People have the misconception. Courage is being afraid and doing it anyway. Almost everyone, if you read any biography of Muhammad Ali, or I can think of other greats that I've read, everybody becomes afraid at some time. Even people who gain medals and honor in war and things of that nature. But they had something they believed in more than the fear. That's what I noticed as I guess, an underlying theme in all the people that we may call courageous. There's something they believed in that drove them past the fear. Martin Luther King was, when I was reading about him, he was afraid a lot. People didn't know it, but he went out there anyway. So it's absolutely essential for any commander to be courageous. But courage doesn't, the reason he had wisdom first, because courage, you need to be wise. Courage doesn't mean being reckless, or you got 15 people of enemy soldiers with guns pointed at you and just charging at them and then dying because if you're dead, you can't fight or help anybody. So it doesn't mean being reckless, but it means basically seizing opportunity when it comes. There's some people that opportunity will come, but they would not seize it out of fear, thinking I can't do it. Um, Some type of something may have happened to them in the past that's destroyed their confidence. See, that's why it's encouraged that you have to be courageous and do things even when you're afraid. I read something that I can't remember who it was, but a psychiatrist or someone who studied psychology had written. They said the way to defeat fear is to do what you fear, and the fear goes away. And I tried that. It works. You're afraid to do something like public speaking. A lot of people don't know that public speaking. I think there was some type of survey done. Even above the fear of death, people fear public speaking. But what I found was even when I was in school, I always wanted to go first when I was in a group speaking because once I start, the fear goes away. Just start and go. So I didn't mean to take you on a long trip, but as I mentioned, we're going to elaborate on each point. I'm going to show you how this relates to our day-to-day living, and it's going to help strengthen all of us by following these principles. Okay, and let's see, one, two, three, four, five, and the fifth component of the commander. And when you're analyzing a commander, or these are the what you need to have or make a part of your life as the commander of your home and as a leader. But it was strictness or discipline, absolutely imperative. Discipline is self-control. Discipline will keep you from acting out of what we call emotion. You got to act out of objective reality, statistical analysis. What's the best route for me? Forget how I feel if I'm angry. Feelings are just chemicals in your mind and in your heart or wherever you want to say. It's just a feeling that'll pass. But reality is going to be here. So you got to make sure that you act on probability. That's why we have statistics. We'll use mathematics. If I have 80% chance of doing this, okay, and that's going to work. I'm sorry, I have an 80% chance of success if I go this way, but I feel better going this way, even though it's a 20% chance of success. I got to go with mathematical reality. So that's what he's saying there for in discipline, self-control, which we must have. The only difference between, I would guess, some people that may commit crimes and some that don't, and this is not across the board, but generally, um, it comes to seems like a self-control thing. People have road rage. One person may say, you know, I'm mad at that person and they made me angry. And another person will go and actually attack the person. See the difference? Discipline. And then the bad result from acting without discipline. Okay, but that was basically demonstrating the virtues of the commander. And the commander is you. You are the general of your life. Just like me, the commander is me. So all of these principles we need to incorporate into our lives. And these are proven for nothing lasts over 2,000 years that doesn't work. Okay, so we'll move on to the next component here. Okay. Oh, one thing I'm sorry I forgot to mention about the moral law or just cause is that he says here that a moral law or what I call a just cause, people people will follow the ruler regardless of their lives and be undismayed by any danger. So, what that is saying is that when you have a just cause and you see people that you may call fanatical or in a war situation or any situation where they what we call go all out or give 100%, they have a just cause or something deep or something morally that's driving them beyond the emotion of fear, as I mentioned before. So a just cause correlates with courage, as I mentioned before. So, there's nothing new under the sun, I'm sorry. This is live, so you're going to hear me make some mistakes. So, and I don't edit it. So, but these things are thousands of years old and we can apply them today. So that's on enough on the moral law. So next we'll go to the next component, which was method and discipline. Out of the things that you'll analyze or conditions on the battlefield that you will look at. And your battlefield is your life, as I'm gonna keep mentioning over and over. It's not out there with tanks, and that's one battlefield, but you have one. We all have one every day. Uh, okay, so number one, okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to read first and then we'll analyze it. By method and discipline are to be understood are the marshaling of the army in its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among the officers, the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army, and the control of military expenditure. Okay, now I'm going to take those point by point. Method and discipline, when they go together, and we mentioned discipline before, but method and discipline together, he combined them if you notice. Um, these are organizational, I guess you would say, organizational specifications, skills, or necessities. And you see them in successful businesses as well. So these things are going to seem simple, but the simplicity of these components is pretty much what keeps them universal and keeps them working. So it also makes it easy for you to review these things and keep yourself in line. I mean, we may say or think that some of these principles are simple, but it's not simple to think of a way to apply them in different components of your life. Anybody can just read a sentence, but when you look at how can I apply this to help me, your life will get better. Um, so we'll go with the marshaling of the army in its proper subdivision. An army means any group with us, as we mentioned before. He uses army because he was on a battlefield, but they've used this in business as well. But marshaling the army in its proper subdivisions is basically, and I have to mention too at the beginning so that this stays on YouTube. I am not the author of this book, as I mentioned, it's Sun Tzu. We're just analyzing it, and I'm helping to give you information on how to apply it to daily life and its supreme value. So, the marshaling of the army in its proper subdivision, all it is in business jargon is departmentalization. You know, you got your finance department, maybe security, marketing, things of that nature, human resources department. So, that's a very simple concept, but you also have to do that at home. That's why everybody needs to keep a notebook or ledger. That's a lost art. And properly, as he would say here, in subdivisions, finances, your food, you know, whatever your mortgage, rent, car, whatever, divide them. And don't use any of your money for anything else until you take care of those. That goes back to discipline. And I notice a lot of people have a problem with that. That's why this is so invaluable. Because when you feel our human urge to go do something else, just glance at this. And, okay, I got to bring myself back. Because this knowledge is very helpful. Okay, the graduations of rank among the officers. Okay, the graduations of rank among the officers. That's just chain of command. In their business, of course, you got your general manager, your president, vice president of the business, if there is one. Then you manager of finance, marketing, or what have you. So that's graduation of rank. And in your home, you got your graduation of rank too. You know, with your parents, then the children or what have you, or whoever's in your home, who head of household, of course, is at the top. All right. Then we got the maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army. Okay. The maintenance of roads by which supplies may reach the army is also very interesting. Seems very simple, but let's say we call it income streams. And maintenance of those means keeping income streams, so supplies may reach the army. Some people say keep them in a job. That's a necessary road by which supplies may reach the home or the army. You just apply it from army to home or business if you own a business. So the maintenance roads and the army. So that means keeping the income streams coming in, which is a necessity, which we all know. But if you notice, he uses roads and not road. That's a clue that we should have multiple streams of income as much as possible. Because we all need a plan A, B, and C. You know, if somebody's employed, you have a job that can end as soon as somebody says, "Okay, you're fired." Especially if you're in an at-will state. So you always want to have multiple streams of income if you can. I mean, this is not a lecture session trying to tell people what to do anything, but these principles in the art of war, I'm just reading them and then elaborating and providing analysis of how we apply them to our lives. Of course, the choice is yours. But as I mentioned before, this is thousands of years old and it can help us. Okay. And next, the control of military expenditure, which is basically budget and finance for us. Control of military expenditure. Stop wasting money. That's basically what he's saying, but he's saying it nicely. And take care of your bills first. So if you read this, sometimes when you have an urge to go do, I want to go buy A, B, or C before paying a necessity. Sometimes you glance at this and bring yourself back, and then and be a brighter day tomorrow because you have what you need. So the control of military expenditure, and also that also covers the wisdom of knowing what to buy, when to buy it, and why you're buying it. So if you notice, each sentence here can be elaborated on in a plethora of ways, just multifaceted over. And you that are watching the video or what have you can probably think of even more ways to apply it. So these sentences don't have just one meaning. So we'll go to the next thing. All right, he says these 5 heads should be familiar to every general. He who knows them will be victorious, and he who knows them not will fail. So those are the 5, the conditions, and he's basically saying he who knows them not will fail. So they, as most of you through life, have probably come to the conclusion of the efficacy of using these heads, and you may call them something else, but we have to sometimes glance at this to remind ourselves to practice them every day. Okay? So the next sentence he says, therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of a comparison in this wise. All right. So when you're making your deliberations, or basically making decisions and analyzing all the information before you make a decision on whatever it is, whether it's a business venture or something simple as where to go shop that day or what have you. Or if you come basically with this, if you're analyzing, let's say, 2 competing entities or people or companies, and then you're making your decision which to go with, these 7 considerations are ways to forecast who will win or lose, and then you can make your decision, on who to go along with based on who you can project winning or losing. And this can be applied in a lot of ways. Some of the ways I probably can't say here, on YouTube or what have you, but you'll be amazed at where you can apply these and how they can help you in your analysis of competing components. Even on the world stage today, you can use these 7, look at countries that may be competing or at war or what have you, and you can project who will win with these 7 considerations. Interesting, and it's truths and mathematics, not opinion. So number 1, which of the 2 sovereigns is imbued with the moral law? We went over that, a just cause. And that's number 1 in making your comparison. That tells you how important it is. Because the ones with the just cause or the soldiers believe in what they're doing, not just soldiers or personnel or the job or what have you, they are giving 100%, even they will give their life for it. That's a powerful force. Two, which of the two generals has most ability? Absolutely essential when you are generals or managers or leaders of companies. If you're seeing two companies compete or country, whatever, which of the two generals has most ability? So you need to study the leaders of organizations. Even if you're deciding which company to work for, and it may become narrowed down to two. Which of the two generals, which general or manager has the most ability? And you can compare it based on those virtues and also with this. Okay. With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? And of course, when we say heaven, we're just talking about atmospheric conditions and weather conditions and the earth. So if you're comparing, let's say, two competing armies in a war, you know, which with whom lie the advantages derived from, let's say, heaven. If we mention heaven, let's say who has the strongest air force? They're going to control the skies. This is just one example. You got many. And then with the earth, um, which army has land with the most, I guess, trees or places they can hide? That's going to give them a big advantage. So those are just two examples I gave you. But when you're analyzing something, you always look at also weather conditions and earth conditions. Okay, on which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? Absolutely important. So if you have two competing armies, and not just armies, we could say teams, um, since sports are, a form of, I guess we call it bloodless to a degree warfare, competition without blood, and hopefully without anybody having any fatal injuries. But which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? And I can even go on to boxing with this one. And I'm not going to call any names because I don't know what the rules are here. I'm new to this YouTube thing. But when you have a fighter that's disciplined, and I saw this happen in 1990, well, you got a fighter that's highly disciplined, highly motivated. And then you got one that is not training as hard, common sense. And he's doing all kinds of other things because he's so used to winning easily. The fighter that was not very good but more disciplined won the fight, and he was a tremendous underdog. But that's just one example. But even in a company, which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? Like coming to work on time, do they enforce that? Do they, enforce respect between co-workers? We can go on and on. That company is going to have a better chance of being a successful competitor and a winner than a company where there are loose rules and maybe even no type of structure and discipline. And that starts with the leader and the manager. Again, we go back to the general at the top because the army is only strong, or the organization is only as strong as the leadership. The leader has no discipline, that'll trickle right on down. There'll be no discipline throughout the organization, and it will eventually fail. Structure and discipline is absolutely necessary. All right. Which army is stronger? That seems common sense. That's a component that's very important, even though it's not absolute, because stronger, more men or better trained army or organization, things of that nature. So strength can be analyzed in different ways. Which army? You may have one organization or army that may have less people, but those people are more trained, more highly disciplined, and even healthier. They might stay in better physical condition. They're going to be the stronger army of the two, even though this organization may have more people. But the health, strength, knowledge, discipline, and I guess the aptitude and attitude of this army will make them actually stronger than the more numerous army. So that's just a factor to consider when you're analyzing which side is stronger when you're making any decision. All right, number 6. On which side are officers and men more highly trained? I mentioned that before. I didn't mean to jump the gun on that, but training, that's a key factor in deciding and making a comparison. Which side is more highly trained? The more highly trained people, of course, will have a greater statistical probability of winning um, because they will be more proficient, probably more highly motivated. Okay? Number 7, in which army is there the greater constancy, both in reward and punishment? That ties in with discipline, but this is very important. And I read it again. In which army is there the greater constancy in both reward and punishment? Consistency. That's constancy. We come back to consistency. That's something we didn't mention, but Sun Tzu goes right into that as well. Consistency is very important in an organization because when there's a consistency in reward and punishment, the co-workers, or not just the personnel and or soldiers, what have you, know what to expect all the time. There's no wondering on their part, and that would give them more faith in the commander and the organization. So this also comes, but constancy also comes with fairness. Are you rewarding the people that deserve it and punishing the people that deserve it? So that's part of the constancy in both reward and punishment. And what that means also is in controlling your personnel or your army, they have to be reward and punishment. When they do well or do things according to the SOP and things of that nature, standard operating procedure, they get rewarded. Or if they make sales quota or what have you, they get rewarded without fail, without missing a beat, without skipping over them. And when they break the rules in a company or army, what have you, the punishment must be just as swift as the reward. So when they know you're going to get a reward when you do well, and there's going to be a fair and just is important too. Punishment when you don't perform or break the rules, that army will be disciplined and I would say disciplined and I'll have a greater deal of consistency in its operations as well because everyone in there would know what's coming if they do A and what's coming if they do B. So that would make for a formidable foe when everybody's on the same accord in that organization. And what he says here is by means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. So when you're analyzing whatever you were analyzing, an event or what have you, these 7, let's say one side has 4 of them and one side has 3, has an advantage in 3 of them, perhaps. It's going to be close, but the one with the 4 out of the 7 will have a greater probability of prevailing. So if you have to decide, that will probably be your best bet. So that's all that's basically saying. But it's amazing how this can be applied to almost anything. Because I'm coming back to this again. These are universal truths. They're not just an opinion formulated. They've been proven over and over and over and over. And they're based on mathematics to a degree, probability, also psychology, sociology, and human reactions. So this art of war by Sun Tzu has so many different, I guess, say subject areas covered because we're talking about humanity, and you can't put humanity in a nutshell. Okay. Also, he says here, this is him mentioning how important these precepts are and his knowledge is. The general that hearkens to my counsel or accepts it and follows it and acts upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The general that hearkens not to my counsel nor acts upon it will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. So he's telling you the general that follows these. If you are like a nation, if you are going to institute a general or some type of supreme commander of your army or your nation as a whole, not just about an army. He's saying you should give one the post or that position that follows these principles. If you don't, you're going to get one that's going to fail. And if you all look through your life and look in politics, you're in business, you can look at all across the board and look at those principles and make a comparison and look at what's failed and what has succeeded. You're going to see that he was right on point, or I would say very accurate in his analysis. All right, next. While heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also of any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. So, what it's saying here is adapt, improvise, and overcome. He's, he's wise enough to know that yes, use these principles, but adapt and use anything else that will help you. It's not saying just stick to my knowledge, and that shows supreme wisdom. He who knows he doesn't know is a wise man. That's an old saying. So he's basically saying that he didn't know everything, but he's saying use these, but anything else that will help you, incorporate it in your day-to-day living, your strategy as well. So let's see next. According as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. So I went back to adapt to circumstances. And the old saying, I forgot where I got this from, but adapt, improvise, and overcome. Whenever, if you keep on let's say you're on a course of action and you see the conditions are not good for that course of action, you need to change and adapt to the conditions. That's basically what he's saying here. As circumstances are favorable. So you keep adapting to the more favorable, I guess, circumstance and use your plan of action. So if you got, let's say your company or what you've been doing using this one certain method has always had a 60% success rate. But then somebody in your company tells you, well, he found another way. He or she's come up with another way that has an 85% chance of success. Has been working for other companies. The intelligent leader or the president of that company or manager or whoever will analyze it, see that it's true, and move along with the 85% probability. But there are stubborn people. That's why he added this. There are stubborn people that stick to. It's called what do they call it? In psychology, it's called belief. It'll come back to me. Belief persistence. When you believe something so strongly that it becomes a part of you, your life, you stick to it even though it's failing. It's called belief persistence. Even though the outcomes keep showing you that it's not true and it's not working, you keep doing it. That's belief persistence. But this is to get you out of that. You follow the highest probability, not emotions and stubbornness. Okay. Another important, and we're still in chapter 1. It's amazing. So uh, next, all warfare is based on deception. If you're engaged in warfare, not you're supposed, as I mentioned with the general, you be genuine, of course, with your friends and things of that nature. But when you're at war with somebody trying to destroy you, or maybe your country, deception is used. You know, I mentioned in World War II, which was a life and death situation for the world, where we had to defeat uh, some aggressive nation. But before D-Day, the invasion of Europe in 1944, we knew the other side was spying on Britain, where we had a lot of our tanks and ammunition, and they knew an invasion was coming, but they weren't sure where. So our leaders actually put balloons. They blew them up. They were shaped just like tanks. They were like airfield tanks, but they weren't really like tanks used on the battlefield. And other supplies that were really just blown up but weren't actually the supplies or weapons or artillery and guns, and even I think maybe even fake troops. They placed them on one side of the island or one area of England, so the enemy thought we were going to invade from that way, but we invaded from another way. This is just one example of all warfare is based on deception. The object is the mind of your enemy if you're engaged in a situation like that. Um, we use it in sports as well. And this is just when you're in a battle for your survival with an opponent, not with your friends. You don't deceive your friends and family and things of that nature. That's why we had moral law and being genuine and sincere as a general. You were talking about being sincere with an enemy. Okay. We even use deception in our sporting events. We fake a pass, football, and so many others that we use. So next, we'll go to hints. When able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When let's see, we must be, and when we are far away, we must make him believe we are near. That just goes back to that example I gave you with the World War II, this deception of the enemy. So there's not much more to say about that. Uh, Number in 20 has hold out baits to entice the enemy and fake disorder and crush him. So, when facing, like even the militaries and nations use this, they hold baits, or even in sports, we pretend we're going left, quarterback sneak, he acts like he gave the ball to a running back, and he goes the other way with the ball. That's deception in sports and in any type of warfare where you're trying to survive. All right, but we're going to apply this to focus more on business and how to apply things to day-to-day life. Let's see. It also says here, if he is secure at all points, be prepared for him. If he is in superior strength, evade him. That goes back to wisdom. You never fight a battle that you can't win at all. Remember, I told you, courage is not synonymous with stupidity or foolishness. So if there's a superior strength, you evade them. You go another way. And this is not just for people. Superior strength may be a weather condition. Let's say your car, a car shouldn't travel over deep water, of course. So over 2 or 3 inches, they suggest that you don't drive over running water. So if you see on the news they got 2 inches or 3 inches of water that's running quickly, that's superior strength to your vehicle. So you evade and go another way. That's how we apply also from the war zone to your daily war zone. Okay. All right. Also, here's another very important one. Attack where he is unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. And we're going to apply this to business. Because as I mentioned before, yes, we have warfare, but these things may seem aggressive, but life requires some type of aggressive action to get what you want. Not hurting others when I say aggressive. I mean bold ambition, but with wisdom. So when it says attack where unprepared, appear where you're not expected, this can be applied to business perfectly. Being unprepared is like when a new product comes out. You come up with a new product, and people are surprised. Oh, great! And then they go buy it. Attack when he's unprepared. That's all new products are doing. Every time they come up with a new product or app, you weren't prepared. You didn't expect that, and even the shock and always we say shock and awe can lead people to go and purchase things they normally might not even be interested in. So surprise, the element of surprise, that's also a part of this, which is we call shock value. That can be used in business, of course, in warfare, but in business and day-to-day life as well. Like when you give a gift, to someone they weren't expecting. Surprise um, gift. They were unprepared. So use that even in your day-to-day life when you're trying to make somebody happy. Okay. Appear where you're not expected. That's another part of the element of surprise. It's just like releasing a new product without telling people until it's out. Appear where you're not expected. Um, a surprise, what we call it, a surprise. I can't get the word now. A surprise appearance. You know, government officials make that. They may show up and make a speech. No one knew they were coming. Things of that nature, or a star. So it has shock value. So what he's saying here is by adding shock value and surprise and adds excitement. And this is on the positive side. In warfare and your survivals on the line, you attack where he's unprepared. That means go where they don't expect you to be, appear where you're not expected. Surprise value. But if you notice, there's what we call yin and yang. There's a positive, and I would say, yeah, positive and negative. And I shouldn't say negative, but I would say there's a more aggressive, a more violent, and then there's a more benevolent way to use each concept. And we try to stick to benevolence, but the world sometimes requires for us to defend ourselves. So you have to apply these as you, in your judgment, see them as necessary. Because attack him where he's unprepared. Um, Also used in, I just go back to boxing or any sport. You go to the weakest area of your opponent. If you're playing football and this side is not as prepared as that side with your linebackers or what have you. You send your running back that way. Go where they're unprepared. So it can be applied to so many different areas of life. There's a fighter that that gets winded quick. You try to make the fight long as possible. You go where he's unprepared, and then you got a better chance of winning. So those are just I always give examples when I give an analysis of any reading. Um, and what he says here at the end again, these military devices leading to victory. These are truths. You can apply them. They don't guarantee 100% victory in every situation, but overall, you will come out the winner in the vast majority of any of your endeavors in the battle of life. And that's all we can really hope for. Um, Winning most of the time is a very good thing in this world of ours where you're not guaranteed anything. All right. So the next or last segment of the chapter 1 is where he says, now the general, no, he also says with the last thing, with these military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. That means don't tell people um, your methodology. I guess close friends or family members or what have you, but you don't divulge how you take care of business. You don't tell anyone beforehand what you're going to do. So, and that's hard for a lot of people. These things seem simple, but some people have to tell somebody what they're going to do. Even if they had to, a wise man once told me, don't tell anyone a secret because you can't trust anybody. He said, not even yourself. So it's best not to just say anything. Silence. A lot of people need to read this over and over. Must not be divulged beforehand to keep them from going and telling what they're going to do. Okay. All right. Now the general who wins a battle makes many calculations in his temple or his area where he's planning the temple before the battle is fought. The general who loses a battle makes but few calculations beforehand. Thus do many calculations lead to victory and few calculations to defeat. How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Now, in explaining this and breaking this one down, the general who makes many calculations before the battle is fought. The general who wins a battle makes many calculations before the battle is fought. So he's he's using all those other principles and analyzing the battlefield as we mentioned, or analyzing the field of endeavor in business or what have you, calculating the probabilities. Statistical analysis is going to be a very important part of that. That's what it comes down to. He's looking at men, terrain, weather, his leadership, himself as a leader. All these things come into play that we mentioned before. And a general who makes deep calculations using all of those principles will generally win the battle. The general who doesn't make many calculations at all beforehand, just does things rashly or without forethought, as we call it, will generally lose a battle. And this is basically, this can be applied to day-to-day life as well. Because I once heard a wise person say, you always look at the outcome. You look at what the end is going to be before you make a move. Play the tape all the way to the end, as they have mentioned. I can't remember who said that, but it's called foresight. So you make your calculations. Let's say before some people that get into trouble, and they're the general, as you the general of your life. They may go and say, "I'm going to, I don't know, rob a store, whatever they're going to do." They don't even look forward to, somebody can get hurt, especially if they're using a gun and they may go off, things of that nature. They didn't look at, you're going to get time, some years for it. That's going to mess up your life. If you have a felony, make it harder for you when you do get out to get home, job. These all for that one thing. You got all these others coming right back at them. So they didn't make calculations beforehand. So they're going to lose that battle. As a matter of fact, if we go back to wisdom, or we go back to benevolence, you wouldn't even think from the start to even go and try to take something for somebody else. So it all goes back to those principles. Um, so that's why he says, thus do many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat. And how much more no calculation at all? So no calculation at all definitely uh, what we call exacerbates your chances of defeat and multiplies it. And at the end, he says, it is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. What he didn't mention here is all goes back to statistical probability. We all go back to mathematics and universal law. That's what makes it so interesting. So this is basically the first chapter of the art of war, and you can do research on your own. Each sentence can be researched upon and applied in so many different ways. In each chapter, you'll see as we go along more and more how it can be applied to your life. But there's so much more, and I won't have time to go into it all here today. But yes, once again, this has been an analysis of Sun Tzu's Art of War and how we can apply it to our day-to-day lives, and also what's going on in the world today with conflicts and things of that nature as well. I don't know if I'm allowed to say names here, uh, but if you notice, deception was used even in the warfare that was starting, you know, in the where we're having the war now. The person kept saying, "I'm not going to attack," but kept moving troops closer and attack. All warfare is based on deception. So I'll see you next time.